What do you know? We're live. I think I pressed the button even before I had intended to, but that's okay because we got lots to get to. And I want to start off with this news that we're hearing from Pam Bondi, you guys. This is unbelievable. So Pam went on to Hannity's show last night and let loose. We're going to get into what she had to say and what it really means for the FBI, what it suggests about the Epstein case, whether or not we're ever going to see these files. I have some thoughts on all of that. It all comes as Pam really starts to flex her wings here. She's looking at taking Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez out. This woman is about to get arrested. I've got some special intel and sourcing on that I want to bring to you. It comes as the FBI chief in New York was tossed, and it all happens on the night of what we would normally call the State of the Union, but in this case, because he's only been there over just a month or so, Donald Trump will be having a joint address to Congress. So that is what's happening tonight. And there's a lot of developments, including one that I was just working on right now. It looks as though stopping all federal funding to Ukraine really scared the heck out of Zelensky. And it looks as though Trump and Zelensky may have reached a deal. So Trump and Zelensky may have reached a deal. It's like the art of the deal in action, right? I mean, that's kind of how it feels. Anyway, we're going to get to all of that. Welcome to the show. Good to have you here. I am Trish Regan. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Pam Bondi, this is some big news out of her. She said she's got a truckload of the files, guys. And she's ready to get to work. She and Kash are actually working through them as we speak, and they're going to be releasing them, hopefully a little bit better this time, right? I mean, Anna Paulina Luna, the representative from Florida, who's in charge of the task force to actually disseminate all of this classified information. She wasn't even given a heads up last time, but maybe this time it's going to happen. It looks like this time they're pulling their act together. Again, Pam Bondi announcing that she has a truckload of documents now related to the Epstein case. This is after she had gotten significant pushback from the FBI out of New York. Things have changed. Listen to her here.
We all did. And the FBI handed over a couple hundred pages of documents. But, you know, Sean, I gave them a deadline of Friday at 8 a.m. to get us everything. And a source had told me where the documents were being kept. Southern District of New York, shock. So we got them all by, hopefully all of them, Friday at 8 a.m. Thousands of pages of documents. I have the FBI going through them, and Kash is also, now that we have Kash here, it's a game changer, of course, and Kash is going to, Director Patel, is going to get us a detailed report as to why the FBI withheld all of those documents.
Okay, I want to be clear because I think people got frustrated because they were expecting more. You were expecting more, and you didn't find out less than 24 hours before the release. You got a whistleblower that confirmed that there were way more documents that they were supposed to turn over, and then you found out just before that.
Well, sure, and you're looking at...
In other words, the FBI lied.
These documents going, these aren't all the Epstein files. You know, there were flight logs, there were names and victims' names, and we're going, where's the rest of the stuff? And that's what the FBI had turned over to us. And so a source said, whoa, all this evidence is sitting in the Southern District of New York. Yeah. So based on that, I gave them the deadline, Friday at 8, a truckload of evidence arrived. It's now in the possession of the FBI. Kash is going to get me and himself, really, a detailed report as to why all these documents and evidence had been withheld. And, you know, we're going to go through it as fast as we can, but go through it very cautiously to protect all the victims of Epstein, because there are a lot of victims.
Well, you had identified in phase one over 254.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, is that the only thing that would be redacted? Will everything else be made public that you get in your possession?
Yeah, the FBI hasn't had, obviously, they haven't looked at the thousands of pages of documents that they've just received Friday. Yeah. But Kash has a team going through them, and it's always about protecting the victim. But you know what? We believe in transparency, and America has the right to know. The Biden administration sat on these documents. No one did anything with them. And why were they sitting in the Southern District of New York? I want a full report on that. Sadly, these people don't believe in transparency, but I think more, unfortunately, I think a lot of them don't believe in honesty. And it's a new day, it's a new administration, and everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
And that goes the same with the JFK files,
JFK,
RFK files,
Martin
MLK.
Luther King. Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What are the things that, and maybe some people don't understand the need to redact. In the case of a victim, that should be pretty obvious to people. What are the other things that maybe you'd have to redact?
Well,
national security?
No, of course. National security, some grand jury information, which is always going to be confidential. But we'll see. Let's look through them as fast as we can, get it out to the American people, because the American people have a right to know, not only on that, but on Kennedy, on Martin Luther King, on all of these cases that the Biden administration has just sat on for all these years. So, yeah, it's really... It's not sad. It's infuriating that these people thought that they could sit on this information, but they can't. It's a new day, and we believe in transparency, and it's going to come out. And when we redact things, Sean, what we're going to do is not just pull pages out like they used to do. If something's redacted, you will know the line, and you will know why it's redacted, a victim's name, identifying information of a victim.
Wow. Okay, so basically, she was just saying that the FBI had lied. Massamillon Marine, thank you so much for your generosity. Appreciate it. Very interesting. Little note from you, Krista Compton. I'm glad that you like the show. You guys heard that, right? I mean, it sounds like they just flat out lied to her. She had a whistleblower internally that told her, hey, there's thousands of documents. They only gave you 200 pages. So things changed, of course, when she came out with this letter on Friday of last week. And look, it was frustrating, right? Like, we all sat here together. It looked like there was going to be something major. It didn't happen. It seemed like a pretty bad rollout in a variety of ways. They brought all those influencers down to DC, and they were standing there, and they'd been given the binders, and they thought that they had something, but they didn't. And nobody else really, I mean, I guess at some point, Pam and Kash, they realized that they had information that was being withheld. And as a result, maybe they just didn't try and make a big deal of it. I would have taken on a different tact, perhaps. I would have gone absolutely nuclear in that moment in time, and probably held a press conference and probably said, Kash, stand up here by my side, and we're going to totally shout to the rooftops that the FBI is not doing the right thing. But that's effectively what she said in that tough letter. And she said in that letter, and I know, Leslie, I'm looking at your comment, maybe everybody will give her a second chance. I think we're always willing to give people second chances, okay? Let's just start there. Hey, Zelensky may even get a second chance. Rumor has it that he's doing a deal with Trump as we speak. So maybe America gets the rights to the minerals there in Ukraine after all. We'll see. We may hear that announcement coming forward tonight. So I'm hearing. But Pam deserves a second chance. Okay, that's fair. She did send this letter. She did put everyone on notice. And guess what? James Donnelly, the head of the FBI in New York, he got fired for a couple reasons. One, because he was in the way, he wouldn't actually deliver the names of the people that had worked on the J6 prosecutions. And secondly, because he wouldn't turn over any of this Epstein evidence. So how can you have a system when you get a DOJ and you get a head of the FBI, Director Kash Patel, saying, hey, we need this, and you have the guy in New York in this standoff saying, I'm not going to do it. And then you start saying to yourself, well, what is the real reason that they were stonewalling her? And even when, did you see Hannity asked her, okay, well, what do you need to redact? What do you need to take out? Are there matters of national security? Are there those kind of implications? And you know where we're going with this, guys. I hate to say it, but of course, everybody fears that Epstein, what if he were under the protection of U.S. intelligence in some way, shape, or form? Because the word on the street is, okay, and this has not been confirmed, so I want to be cautious in how I address this, but the word on the street, including, by the way, from a very, very good source that I spoke with, who knows him quite, or did know him quite well, spoke to him less than 24 hours before he died. The belief is that he was working in intelligence and that he was selling secrets effectively to the CIA, possibly Israeli intelligence, possibly some other intel operations as well. And because of this, he had gotten, shall we say, a lifeline when he had been arrested down in Florida. And so he got a sweetheart deal back in 2008. And yet, because he indicated while he was in jail that he was willing to talk, because maybe he thought that was his leverage, Well, they came after him pretty hard. The fear is that this woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, whose dad reportedly worked for multiple intelligence agencies, including not just Israeli intelligence, but the CIA, possibly the KGB, a few others along the way. There's been a lot documented about him, and he was mysteriously killed, incidentally. Anyway, the belief is that he was putting in what's called this promise software into global governments, and it acted as a backdoor so that other intel agencies would be able to see, say, for example, what the CIA was doing. And this was something that was advantageous perhaps to Mossad, if that in fact is, and I have to be cautious with how I say this because none of this has actually been proven. It's just what is believed. And I sort of believe it. All right, so you know where I stand. But anyway, so this Robert Maxwell had this business, right? And he brought his daughter, whom he was very close to. She was like the favorite child, into the business. And so she was familiar with all his contacts and his intelligence work. Well, what did she do? She seemingly went out and recruited Jeffrey Epstein, who was like a down on his luck Bear Stearns floor trader who had previously worked as a math high school teacher at a private school in New York, Dalton, actually. Interesting that he was a high school teacher, given his inclination towards young women. He at some point had some kind of problem at Dalton, left, went to Bear Stearns, some kind of problem there. And the guy who runs Victoria's Secret Limited Brands, he kind of took him under his wing, introduced him to Ghislaine. And then the next thing you know, lo and behold, he turns into a multimillionaire. And the thinking is maybe she recruited him knowing that he had this massive evil flaw. I mean, that's proven, right? So we can say that. And that would be some real compromise, should we say, on individuals. And so the concern, and I think that's where Hannity was going, was, are you going to have to withhold stuff? Because basically it implicates the U.S. in this. Because listen, like, if we find out that U.S. intel was somehow complicit in any way and knew about this, but somehow looked the other way because the intel was that great, that's a big problem. Because it's one thing when you're dealing with adults, but in this particular situation, you're not. You're dealing with underage girls. And so it makes it a whole other level of evil, shall we say. Alex Acosta, he was the U.S. attorney that handled Epstein's case back in 2008. He reportedly had said that Epstein belonged to Intel. This is per, and we have to take it with a grain of salt because it's the Daily Beast, and the Daily Beast is what the Daily Beast is a liberal rag sheet. But according to the Daily Beast, they spoke with sources close to Acosta who said that he was told this. In other words, he went so easy on him. He only had to spend 12 hours a day in the jail, 12 hours a day out of jail. And it was like just 8 months or so because it was known that he belonged to the intelligence operation. Well, he belonged to them, right? Until he didn't, until he was willing to sing like a canary. And that's when he may have met his fate. We don't know this. That's what we want to find out. And it's not just the names. Like for me anyway, I'm most interested not just in the names, but whether the U.S. was complicit in the setup. And that would be really troublesome, right? If that is what we in fact learn to be true. And so again, Pam Bondi now has this truckload of files. She's saying the FBI lied to her thanks to the whistleblower. She knew that there was more out there. She demanded that she get it. And lo and behold, she has. And that's good news. And now she and Kash are going to go through it. I keep saying Kash. It's my New Hampshire accent. What can I say? We say aunt instead of aunt. My husband is from upstate New York. He's like, why do you always say aunt? And I still do to this day, right? Anyway, so Kash, I'm sorry. It's just it's a bad habit, but you ought to hear me say mitten. And I now say drawer, but I once used to say draw. So, sometimes the accent just comes out. What can I say? Take a girl out in New Hampshire, can't take the live free or die out of a girl. Again, good to have you guys here. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. We got an FBI chief that is out of a job in New York City. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. He is done. James Dennehy no longer there at the FBI as a result of Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and concern that, he was kind of a holdout, right? He was not going to actually be playing ball. And I've said this all along. You cannot have an intel operation that's at war with the administration. It's just not going to work. And I think that they're all coming to this realization slowly but surely, and it's good that it happened sooner rather than later. So James Dennehy, let me see if I have a picture of him here. There we go. He is now no longer there. He was forced out. I mean, basically, they went to him per sources and they said, you can either be fired or you can leave on your own accord. So there was not a whole lot of choice here. He chose to leave. So he's being pushed out because, number one, Kash Patel was asking for everyone that was involved in the J6 investigation and that was targeting anybody that was at that event, that was targeting President Trump. And Dennehy said, hey, hold off, stand down, don't give them this information. And then it came to a head again because Pam Bondi's demanding all of the evidence that had been collected by the New York FBI. And again, it seems as though Dennehy and team, they were not really playing ball because she couldn't get what she needed. She's saying, they lied to me. They said they had all this. They wouldn't give any of it. And then they said they turned it all over. They have videotapes. They have transcripts of conversation, thousands and thousands of pages. Now she's finally got it. It's why she says she has a truckload, I should say, on her desk right now. So James Dennehy, he's pushed out. He's done. And you know, guys, this is concerning because I just got to say, like, what was going on all along? Like, think about the level of operation you have. You have Obama's holdouts. I mean, he was there for 8 years, combined with all the people from the Biden administration that wanted Kamala to win. I mean, think about the spies who lied, right? That 51X spooks letter where they were trying to tell everybody that up is down and down is up and black is white and white is black. I mean, that's what they were gaslighting Americans and America to no end. It was, it's just Russian misinformation, disinformation, those files that you found on the Hunter Biden laptop, they're not real. That's all planted by Vladimir Putin. By the way, they're continuing this. They're continuing this narrative in the here and now, and it's absolutely wild. Title Pro, thank you for your generosity, and it's good to see you. Massimilian Marine, am I saying that right? Thank you so much. It's good to have you guys here on this. I think you guys are new. I haven't seen you here in the chat before, so welcome to the show. Make sure, again, everybody, that you subscribe and hit the bell so you know when I'm live. We're not live at the same time, although we're live every day, so it's important to do that. But this goes back to the letter that Pam put out, right? Pam demanded that she get the goods. And I'm going to give her credit. You know, credit where credit's due. And you know, I'm critical when I have to be as well. I was pretty critical on Friday because 8 a.m. came and went and we hadn't heard anything. And I think it was important for her to get out there. And Hannity is a great vehicle to do it. She reaches a large audience there. Although, hey, not too shabby over here ourselves, right? I mean, this is beauty of streaming. You think about how many people were able to reach here. It's been rather incredible. Anyway, she got the message out and she's saying, hey, you know, we're serious about this. And she's not only serious about that, she's actually serious about a few other things as well. And I know that because, take a look here, AOC is now going to be charged, ladies and gentlemen. She is preparing right now. They are working on the legal documentation to go after Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been impeding law enforcement, refusing to comply and effectively do what's needed as a member of Congress. I mean, it's unbelievable to me that this has come to this kind of state, right? They all hate America, and none of them actually want to do their jobs. None of them want to comply because it's become so deadly political. You know, Greg Williams talking about the word on the street is that they've been paying protesters. I saw that. Greg, you know, we're gonna get into that a little bit. Greg Williams, thank you for being on the show here today, and thank you for the generosity. We want to get into that because I got an unbelievable poll. I got to share with you just an absolutely unbelievable poll that shows Americans are with DOJ, Americans are with Trump, Americans are totally there every step of the way. And it's rather shocking because the Democrats, you know, they can't get out of their own way. They really can't. They're just hating all over him. And America is with this president. We'll talk about that. Quick shout out for one of our great sponsors on the show that help bring you this show every single day for free. We love them for that. We also love that we can get $15,000 worth of free silver, right? A deal's a deal. Go to trishlovesgold.com, trishlovesgold.com. Text Trish to 65532. You can call them at 1-844-495-1115. These are our friends at American Heart for Gold. And again, up to $15,000 in free silver. Gold, of course, has been on a tear. I got to tell you, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later on, because today is actually my 1-year anniversary at 76 Research, and our portfolio has just been killing it, and I'm thrilled for that, and I'm thrilled for all of you who invested in the stocks that we recommended. We can talk about that, but one of the things that we did recommend, thank you, Mr. Know-It-All, again, appreciate the generosity from you guys. One of the things that is so important to hold right now, in my estimation, I mean, I like it always, but certainly in light of some of the chaos that's been going on, has been gold. So if you like gold, if you want to invest in gold, give them a ring. They're pretty straight shooters. They'll talk you through it, and you can get up to $15,000 with qualifying offers right now at American Heart for Gold. Well worth it. TrishLovesGold.com. It has a nice ring to it. Okay, AOC, guys. AOC is getting charged. AOC being charged by Trump's DOJ. This is Pam Bondi coming in and saying, you know what? We've had enough. Because you cannot continue to hold webinars and to post social media things and to tell everybody how to avoid ICE. That's not how it's done. Here's Tom Homan, who is our new border czar, and I've known Tom for years. He's salt of the earth. He's a good guy. All he wants to do is clean this up. And he's got lawmakers like AOC or Ilhan Omar, thank you very much, in the way of him doing his job. He spoke with my friend Maria Bartiromo on her show, former colleague as well, at a couple of networks, CNBC and Fox Business. Here they are. This is important to hear.
This is the guy that you locked in a jail cell. That's who we want to talk to.
Well, I mean, look, you've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez doing webinars to explain to illegal immigrants how to evade ICE arrests, and then she tweeted out after something you said maybe she's going to be in trouble now, and she says maybe he can learn to read the Constitution would be a good place to start. She's continuing her resist efforts against your efforts, Tom.
Look, I forgot more about the Constitution and immigration enforcement as you ever know. I mean, I had to educate her during congressional testimony that entering the country illegally is a crime. So, whatever. But what she needs to do is read the statutes enacted by Congress. Title 8, United States Code 1324, United States. Title 8, United States Code 1324 and 25. That's what she needs to read, because it's illegal to enter this country. It's a crime to enter this country illegally. Not only that, when you harbor and conceal and impede law enforcement, that's a felony. So what she's doing, she says she's educating them as to the constitutional rights, and we all know they got constitutional rights. But what she's really doing, you and I and the rest of the country knows, she's trying to teach them how to evade law enforcement. Now, I just said, well, out of the gate, we're concentrating on public safety threats, national security threats. So she's educating those in the country illegally with a significant criminal conviction, public safety threat. Don't open your door. Don't talk to ICE. Here's how you invade law enforcement. Let's hope she's not educating the next person who gets out and murders a young college student in Georgia. I mean, these are bad people we're looking for. So she can call it education all she wants, but we all know it's about evading law enforcement. These people have been ordered removed. The people we're looking for right now have final orders. They're criminals. They're in the country illegally. A judge has ordered them removed. They become a fugitive. And these are the folks she's helping? So I've asked the Department of Justice to look at this. Where is the line on impediment? Where does that fine line so we can instruct ICE officers what they can do when people don't open the doors or try to evade their arrest? So I simply asked DOJ, give me a legal opinion, because every Department of Justice will interpret things differently. What is the legal opinion on impediment? And we'll see what happens.
How significant are the businesses that the dangerous cartels have started up in America?
Pretty dangerous, pretty significant. Kristi Noem was just out there today talking about how they're going after these gang members. It was really pretty incredible. Of course, she was all dressed up. The joke is, I shouldn't even tell you guys this, but you probably already know it. The joke is that now people are going to say, "Hey, I got to pretend I'm a criminal because I want Kristi Noem like showing up at my doorstep." Let me see if I can show you this, because she looks like a total bad, you know what, all decked out, going after the criminals. Here she is. I'm going to show you. Take a peek. Your new Department of Homeland Security Secretary.
This morning we're going after MS-13 gang members, 18th Street gang members, bad dudes, getting them off the street. Thanks to all these officers putting their lives at risk to work in our task forces to make our streets safe.
Okay. I know it's hard to hear, but the point is that she's out there, they're out there, and these are bad guys. You heard Tom Homan say something important. He referenced this debate that he's had in the past with one Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I want to show you what he was speaking to, because they've had their fireworks before. And he's not kidding when he says he's forgotten more about the Constitution than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ever hoped to ever know. Watch.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Homan,
family.
with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're in the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay. Mr. Chair, the memo is submitted to the record for review. Inspector General Costello, one last thing. Is there
She's like, Here's the other thing, guys. Think about this. If you're applying for asylum, not only is Tom Homan right, you have to be in the appropriate venue to be applying for it. You can't actually come here illegally, camp out, and say, hey, now I'm applying for asylum. You actually also have to qualify for asylum. And most people that are coming here, in addition to them being here illegally, they're not qualifying for asylum. And I know this sounds harsh, but basically you have to be able to prove that you are in jeopardy in your homeland because of your political beliefs, because of your race or gender or something like that. You actually have to qualify. You can't say, gee, the economy's really bad in Mexico right now, and therefore I want a better opportunity in my life, and that's why I want to come to the United States. That actually doesn't qualify you. So you're not going to get asylum. All things being equal, you're just not going to get it. And so I keep going back to what were they trying to do? I mean, we know at one point they were trying to get 800,000 people that were here illegally registered as voters in New York City. Think about that. I mean, it tells you perhaps everything that you need to know. And you know what they say? Oh, it's fake news. It's fake news. The Republicans are just trying to scare you. And I'm like, well, you guys, first of all, you've done it out in Berkeley, California. They get to vote in school board elections. And now you're doing it in New York. And for some reason, AOC is really stuck on this idea that these are her constituents, that people are here illegally. People who are here illegally are somehow her constituents. So she's sending out things like this. Take a peek. This is her little pamphlet. Verify, document, share, confirm that they are actually ICE if they show up. And then verificar, she says, documentar, compartir. I do speak Spanish, believe it or not, probably better than she does. Irish girl that I am. Si ves a ICE en público, here's what you need to do. She's putting it in Spanish, she's putting it in English, she's telling them exactly what their instructions are. And it's like, whoa, lady, you know what? They're not actually your constituents. They're not here legally. Who are you looking out for? I mean, this is getting a little bit perverse, shall we say. She's getting nervous. I'm telling you, she's nervous now because she knows that Pam is preparing charges against her. She knows this is coming. And so she went on to NPR just yesterday morning. One of my friends said to me, what are they doing giving her time on public airwaves, for goodness sakes? Anyway, I want you to see the interview. Some of you may have seen this clip already, but it's important because AOC is effectively defending this idea that somehow she needs to protect her, quote, constituents that are here illegally, as though that makes any sense at all. Let's debate it on the other side.
You had a recent dispute, if that's the right word, with Tom Homan, the president's Homeland Security czar, so-called. You held an online forum, a Know Your Rights forum, that he didn't like. What were you doing? What was your goal as you saw it?
My job is to educate and act as a liaison of critical information to my constituents. And I was informing all of my constituents of their constitutional protections. And in particular, their constitutional protections against illegal search and seizure in the United States.
Okay.
Homan was upset, I suppose, because he felt that you were giving advice to people who were here illegally. Mm-hmm. Were you?
I was giving advice to all of my constituents. Yeah.
He said he was going to report you, or even that he did reach out to the Department of Justice. Have you heard from the Department of Justice?
I have not, and I intend on reaching out to the Department of Justice to inquire.
Really? What would your question be for the Department of Justice?
Well, there is a member of the Trump administration who is threatening and seeks to open an inquiry, and are you going to do it?
What would you learn? What do you hope to learn from that exchange?
I think it's important to know where this administration stands and if they intend on using political intimidation to silence their critics.
Wow. Spirit-filled, thank you so much. Spirit-filled has been a very generous supporter, always here on the show and always encouraging everybody. Thank you again. 600,000 subs and still growing. So thank you. Best podcast ever. I so appreciate it. It's all been organic. We just, come here together every single day. I just report the truth and you guys respond. So it's good. But AOC now, what do you think of that? She's effectively saying, no, I'm fine because I'm just telling my constituents what their rights are. And the guy's like, yeah, but Tom Homan would say, you're assuming then that your constituents are illegals? Like you're out there giving advice to illegals on how to circumvent the law? And she's like, I'm just helping my constituents. Come on, for God's sakes. AOC, you know better. That's why you're scared. That's why you're sending this letter right now. She's demanding to know, asking Pam Bondi, am I really going to be prosecuted? And the short answer for her headline is yes. She will be prosecuted for this because she is in violation of the law. And what Pam is doing right now is just making sure that she has all of her ducks in a row. Because they don't want to come out and do something and then have it thrown out. This is a team that means business. And listen, they've been studying all this for the last 4 years. That's the beauty of the Trump administration actually having come back. If they had been there in 2020, I think of it as sort of a blessing in a way. Because had he gone in 2020, it would have been more the same old. I mean, the advantage is we probably never would have wound up seeing a war in Ukraine because diplomacy would have been enacted. We probably never would have seen the crazy inflation that we've seen, and that all would have been good. But nonetheless, now that he has had the ability to see what they're capable of, and gosh darn it, guys, aren't they capable of law? Just look at Letitia James, who's in trouble. We're going to get to that in a second. Look at Letitia James, look at Alvin Bragg, look at Fannie Willis. I mean, these people, Jack Smith, they were out for blood. They weren't messing around. So you know what? He's coming back and, this is not vengeance. This is actually just, I think, in my estimation, what has to be done in order to clean out the system so that you have a fair, level playing field for anybody who comes in on either side. In other words, you have your president, you take your executive orders from the president is backed up by Congress. Listen, if he didn't have Congress, then guess what? He could get impeached. But all this stuff that's happening right now, he's going to have a lot of authority to do. Believe me, he will. And that's why Letitia James is up a creek without a paddle. It's why AOC is in trouble. And there's going to be more, okay? So Tish, James, Kathy Hochul, the head of the DMV in New York, AOC in New York. AOC is going to be sued because of this. Trust me on this one. It's happening. She's worried as all heck. It's why, the headline she's flooding with whether or not she's under investigation. Well, let me just, again, reiterate to you, listen, I'll tell you what Tom told you. You're standing in the way of law officers doing their job. And those constituents that you claim to be repping, guess what? They need to be safe. And the feds are responsible all day long. What does the Constitution say? That's like the one power that the federal government really and truly does have is to control our borders and to control who's in this country, and you're going to try and get in the way of that. I'm telling you, this is not a winning issue, and it's going to send you straight to the slammer. Here's Pam Bondi talking about filing charges, as she just did, against Letitia James, the head of the DMV, and the governor of New York, just about a week ago.
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today.
And she's saying she's going to end it. Okay? And you know what? If you're not going to end it, Letitia James, if you're not going to end it, Kathy Hochul, then she's going to make sure she does the work for you. I mean, they're going after all these illegals. You saw Kristi Noem, right? Secretary of Homeland Security. You've got Tom Homan, border czar. They're coordinating these efforts with ICE. And yet, simultaneously, people are in the way. I mean, Tom Homan talked about how it's amazing that these ICE leaks are happening, and he believes very strongly and has on good intel that they're coming straight from the FBI.
Border czar, Tom Homan. Tom, where are these leaks coming from?
Well, look, we think it's coming from inside, and we know the first leak of Aurora is under current investigation. We think we identified that person under investigation right now. The California leak, Secretary Noem, she's correct. Some of the information we're receiving tends to lead toward the FBI. But I talked to the Deputy Attorney General all this weekend. They've opened up a criminal investigation. And they have promised that not only this person lose their job and lose their pension, they're going to go to jail. They're going to criminally prosecute. So we're all over it.
They're all over it. So if the FBI, just think this through for a second, if the FBI is leaking, then it tells you got some serious problems, right? Again, this gets back to how we started this discussion, which is that there's this war, if you would, between the administration and the FBI, and that shouldn't exist because, you got a boss now. Kash Patel is the director of the FBI. He's appointed by the President of the United States. And if you don't actually want to play ball with him, then really you shouldn't be on the team. And so when it comes to people like James Dennehy that get pushed out, they're being pushed out for a reason. Because they do not have a viewpoint on the world that lines up with where this administration is going. And so Tom Homan saying, if the FBI is the one leaking, then once again, we got a problem. Okay? If the FBI is not turning over in New York the documentation that Pam Bondi has requested, the DOJ has requested on the Epstein files, then you got a problem. If the FBI is leaking ICE raids, you got a problem. You see how this just keeps, if you've got a congresswoman from New York who's out there telling everybody how to avoid ICE, you've got a problem. And so with new sheriffs in town, there's only one way to address it, right? There's one way to address it. And I'm telling you guys, Ilhan Omar is next. You're not going to believe the latest of what she's saying. I'm going to get to that. But first, a little celebration time. Okay, 1 year at 76 Research. This is the research company that I created, investment research company. And it's been a ton of work. And I created this for you guys because I've had so many people say, Trish, I don't know what to invest in or how to invest or what to do. And I thought if I can do anything, it's to create something of value for all of you. And so I've done this. It's just $1 a month, actually, for the 76 report. It's a little more money, not much, if you want to get the portfolios themselves. And I'll tell you, it's worth doing, guys, because check this out. I mean, you've got an S&P, right, that has, in the last year, been down at 1.5% or something. Maybe that's just for the last month. I mean, we're beating the S&P. We beat the S&P every month. But take a look at those numbers. In American Resilience portfolio, you get the top pick up 72%. In the Inflation Protection portfolio, up 75%. In our materials pick, you get an Income Builder portfolio with energy picks up 72%. So you can see right across the board, we have just been killing it. And it's something I'm super, 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 super proud of. I know I talk about it every day. So forgive me if I'm boring some of you and you're not into investing, but I am. It's how I started my career, actually on the emerging debt markets desk at Goldman Sachs, trading sovereign debt. And it's what Rob Horton, who's my co-founder there at 76 Research, has done his entire career. He's run billions of dollars in mutual funds. And this is an opportunity for you guys to really be able to take charge of your economic future. So again, I encourage you to go look at the 76 portfolios, up 75% there. I was looking at 75%, the materials pick, up 72% for the energy. I mean, you're talking everything is up between almost 30% and 75%. So well worth you checking out. Again, code word dollar at 76research.com. So is Ilhan Omar going to be charged with the same thing that none other than AOC is being charged with? I think so. Ilhan Omar, she's in trouble because she's been doing these seminars. I've told you guys about these. Okay. We won't linger on that because it's all in Arabic, and I speak a lot of languages, but not that one. And so she's giving instructions in Arabic to the people there, her, quote, constituents, right? Because they're all saying the same thing. Oh, but there are constituents. It's like, no, they're not. They're here illegally, for goodness sakes, guys. And now at the same time as she's doing that, it's like she's trying to just fan the flames. Right now, she's out there talking about how she's going to be defiant, and there's this defiant atmosphere amongst Democrats right now as we go into none other than the joint address to Congress tonight. It's kind of like the State of the Union, but they don't call it the State of the Union because he hasn't been there for a year. He's only been there for a month and change, but it's going to be the President of the United States' address to the nation tonight. And it's kind of like a big deal. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance. And, regardless of what side you're on, thank you again, Spirit-filled, again, for the generosity, much appreciated. But when you see that happening, it's like you really feel like the nation's coming together. And, even though we have our differences, whatever, it's like we're kind of moving in the right way. Well, not tonight. I think you're going to see something entirely different. And it's going to be reminiscent of that time that Nancy Pelosi got up there and just tore up her papers. Remember how mad she was sitting behind Donald Trump? Well, I'm looking forward to some fireworks tonight. Ilhan Omar has already warned of them. The Democrats are embracing their defiance.
What does that look like? I mean, there have been walkouts in the past. Is that still a possibility? What does defiance look like?
I mean, it will look different for every member. I think this go around. We shouldn't be surprised if we see walkouts. We shouldn't be surprised if we see, the kind of coordinated effort in dressing a certain way to send a message. We shouldn't be surprised if we see people might even, verbally react to some of the lies that we know he is going to tell about the work that his administration is doing and the harm that it's causing the American people.
Really? Really? Okay, so they're already trying to prepare for some of those lies. And guys, it's embarrassing. I have to show you this because it's like they got caught. They absolutely got caught. They're all doing the same thing. We have that coming up. But before I do, Alan, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really do. It's so great to have such a warm and inviting group of viewers here and so generous as well. So thank you. But this is unbelievable. So there's a brand new poll. I mean, the Democrats, they just can't fight this. The train has left the station. You got a brand new poll showing that everybody is behind Donald Trump. This was done by a Democrat pollster. A Democrat pollster, the new Harvard-Harris poll. Check it out, you guys. Wow, we just got a big one. $50. Hey, Rebs, thank you so much. Oh, that's very sweet. I you know what, Rebs, I just got to say, Rebs, he or she, I'm not sure, but said, well, you were great on Fox, but you're absolutely amazing on this, like a majestic eagle. Thank you so much. You know what I love about this is that it's all me. It's just me and you, and I don't have to get my scripts approved anymore. When I first started this show, I actually was writing out scripts, and I'm like, this is a waste of time. What a pain in the neck. I don't have to have anybody approve this. It's much faster and way more fun for me to just talk. So obviously I know where I'm going, and I have a roadmap, and I have sound bites I want to play for you guys. But everything else is just us together, and it gives me a flexibility that is not afforded, shall we say, in the traditional network news sense. And believe me, I've worked everywhere. I've worked at all the big business networks, right? CNBC, Bloomberg twice, Fox Business News. And I had an opportunity actually several times to go back to networks And I said, you know what? I'm going to do this whole thing on my own. I've reached a point in my life and a point in my career where it is too important for me to have my independence. And given the change in media now, I can do this. So thank you. I appreciate your kindness. I appreciate your generosity. And it's great to have all of you guys here. But I gotta get to this because this is unbelievable. New Trump poll shows Donald Trump is positively, absolutely crushing it. Crushing it. This is a Democrat pollster that released this out of Harvard Harris. And these numbers are fantastic. Check this out. So 52% of people approve of Donald Trump. That's huge. Okay, that is absolutely huge. 58% think he's doing a better job than Joe Biden. 81% approve of deportation of illegals who have committed crimes. Oh gosh, even Whoopi Goldberg said, well, how can you dispute that? I mean, the only one that seems to be disputing that would be, I guess, AOC. AOC, and the other one would be Ilhan Omar that we were just talking about, of course, right? Mick Bradley, thank you for the generosity. I hope I'm first in breaking news. We certainly try to be. 76% approve of DOJ eliminating waste. They wanted God, fraud, and abuse. And then, let me move my logo here, 68% approve of declaring that there are two genders, male and female. Gosh, I would have kind of thought that would have been more like 80 some odd percent. It's a little surprising to me that that's only 68%. But here's the headline, right? 58% say he's doing a better job than Joe Biden, a way better job. So his approval ratings are soaring. Everything that the Democrats are trying to do is basically getting shot down by the public. The public likes what Donald Trump is doing. They put him in there for a reason. And so when you go on TV and you say crazy things like that one Jasmine Crockett out of Texas, Leslie, I'm sorry, I know you're from Texas. You know, I'm sorry. I guess you get a lot of gerrymandering that's happened down there in the districts, and you get people like this that get in there. God knows why. But Jasmine Crockett is trying to say that Donald Trump is an enemy of the people. And it's like, hey, Jasmine, check out this poll. Because what this shows you is that the people are with Donald Trump and they love what he's doing, all of what he's doing. So I think you better give this one up.
So unfortunately, we have someone that is occupying the White House. And as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States. He swore an oath just like the rest of us. But right now, when you are literally putting us at risk, all because of what? Because you want to convince your followers that you should be a dictator too, that you should never leave the White House because you don't believe that elections should take place. I don't really understand what is going on, and I don't know what it's going to take to get people to wake up.
Okay, so the president is the enemy. Okay, Jasmine, let me just show you this again. 52% of the country, they approve. 58% say he's doing better than Biden. 81% actually approve of the deportation of illegals. 76% approve of DOJ eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. And 68% approve of declaring that there are only two genders, male and female. And this is a Democrat pollster. So guys, like you're out of cards. It's like you're Zelensky, all right? Like you guys have lost in a massive, epic way. And this poll proves it. So much so that now CNN is being forced to admit that, you know what? Trump's doing well. Not just because of the Harvard Harris poll, but another one out of CBS YouGov showing that the public likes what Donald Trump is saying and doing on Ukraine. Not to mention, my sources tell me they've got a deal. And it is going to be announced tonight. We're going to get to that in a second. But here, check this out. CNN having to eat their own words. I mean, like the guy who's delivering the news, he's pretty decent, and I think he's pretty fair. But you can just feel the anchor's animosity towards him as he's delivering this very good news for Donald Trump. Take a peek.
Well, I think the easiest way we can kind of just ask this is, do Americans like the way that Trump's handling his job and compare it to how they felt about Joe Biden? So this is the net approval rating. You look at Joe Biden back in 2024, he was 22 points underwater. Holy cow. You look at Donald Trump, it's just a different planet entirely. I mean, the gulf between these two is wider than the Gulf of America or Mexico, depending on which side of the aisle you stand on. He's at +2. So look, at this particular point, Americans are giving Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt. He's doing considerably better than Joe Biden was doing on the handling of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And so on this simple question, I think Americans are saying, okay, Donald Trump's doing all right on this.
What about specifically on how they feel about bringing the war to an end?
Yeah, okay. So, look, questions on this can be quite complicated, but I think this kind of gets at sort of where the American trend line is. Americans on the Russia-Ukraine war want a quicker end of the war, but Russia keeps its captured land. Look at this, 50%. Bare majority coming in here. Support Ukraine's right to fight, even if it means a longer war. That's at 48. This is very, very close. But the trend line on this question is so important because that want a quick end of the war, look at this. You go back to August of 2022, it was at 31%. Now we're at 50%. I mean, that is a rocket ship upwards in terms of the Americans who want a quick end to the war, even if it means Russia keeps the captured Ukraine land. Americans are moving closer and closer to wanting a compromise, even if it means that Ukraine doesn't really get what it set out to want, at least at the beginning of this war.
I mean, it's sort of incredible, right? And now we're hearing, guys, that Trump and Zelensky may have reached a deal. This just coming to us right now. This is breaking. Let me get it on the screen. Trump and Zelensky reportedly have reached a deal on the mineral rights. So maybe it just took a little bit of tough talk, because don't forget, Zelensky was kind of fired up in all the wrong ways in the Oval Office just recently. You know the drill. I mean, this is one of the most spectacular moments when it's like dad was sitting him down and saying, hey, kid, you know what? We're done. Mom and dad, we're cutting you off. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, I was here with you 24 hours ago, just yesterday, and he cut him off. We had the news in real time as he said he was pausing all aid to Ukraine. Well, what do you know? That gets Zelensky back to the table pretty fast. Apology in hand.
Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
you
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
Well, America was okay with that, believe it or not. Again, according to the newest CBS News YouGov poll, Americans responded positively to that. So I don't know what the Democrats are going to do now. I mean, they've been out saying that somehow, Donald Trump is just a Russian spy. He's an asset. And the people are not with them on this. They are staging walkouts tonight. I'm going to be here with you, so we'll see this together. Thank you again, Spirit Filled. Let me see if you have a comment. Just a nice happy face. Thank you again. I try to read the comments as they come in real time since we are live here. But anyway, this resistance effort, I don't know who they're resisting. I mean, the whole country is with Donald Trump, and they're going to sit there like spoiled children and stomp their feet. Chris Murphy, who, according to some sources, and I know Mark Levin has reported on this, you guys, apparently gave Zelensky some kind of pep talk before he went into that meeting in the Oval Office. And theoretically, one would think he was telling him, hey, take the deal, right? For the sake of the world, take the deal. Zelensky only had one job, to go in there and eat humble pie and just deal with it and sign the deal and take the deal. And he didn't. It's like his little temper got all fired up because JD said, hey, we should have had a better way. We need diplomacy. And he's like, oh, you can't be a diplomat with Putin and this, that, and the other. So Democrat Chris Murphy decides that, he's not even going to go to the major joint address. I mean, he's taking his ball and going home. I mean, this guy is just the epitome of an idiot. An idiot. The senator from Connecticut, forgive me, an East Coast elite, saying, I'm not even going to this thing because, he's just some Russian asset, this, that, and the other. I hate him so much, I'm not going. Please.
You have been trying to lead your party, lead your colleagues in being aggressive and pushing back, as we've heard a lot this morning, against Donald Trump. You're skipping his joint address to Congress on Tuesday.
You believe other Democrats, House and Senate Democrats, should do the same, and why?
Oh, I think every Democrat needs to make up their own mind. I think that State of the Union speech is going to be a farce. I think it's going to be a MAGA pep rally, not a serious talk to the nation. I think Donald Trump is going to spew a series of lies about his alignment with Russia, about what he's trying to do to allow Elon Musk to essentially monetize the American government to enrich Musk and his billionaire crowd. And I'm just not going to be a part of that. Listen, the case I'm making to Democrats is that we have to fight every single day. Every single day. Republicans flood the zone. Democrats have to flood the zone. They flood the zone with lies. We flood the zone with truth. We are going to stop this billionaire takeover of government. We are going to stop their destruction of democracy, which they have to do because what they are attempting to do, gut Medicaid in order to feed another set of tax cuts to Elon Musk and his billionaire friends, it's unpopular. We're going to stop that billionaire takeover, that destruction of our democracy, only by fighting them every single day. A lot of Democrats think maybe you should, fight every third day, you should reserve your power and jump out of the bushes at the right moment. I just think that we have to be on the offensive 24/7.
Yeah, that's going to work for you. That's going to work for you. I mean, so Chris Murphy's not going. Ilhan Omar, as you heard earlier, but we should play it again for those that are just joining the show, is embracing defiance. I mean, what a bunch of losers. Seriously, total losers. Like, this is a moment in history, and they're so mad that their gal didn't win that they're just either not going or they're staging walkouts. I mean, I have no use for this brand of politics. Republicans don't do that to them. We didn't see that happen during Joe Biden. It's unacceptable. It really is.
What does that look like? I mean, there have been walkouts in the past. Is that still a possibility? What does defiance look like?
I mean, it will look different for every member. I think this go around, we shouldn't be surprised if we see walkouts. We shouldn't be surprised if we see, the kind of coordinated effort in dressing a certain way to send a message. We shouldn't be surprised if we see people might even, verbally react to some of the lies that we know he is going to tell about the work that his administration is doing and the harm that it's causing the American people.
All right, so she's just taking her ball and going home like the rest of them, and then they're going to perpetuate this ridiculous narrative like Dan Goldman had, representative from New York. He's the guy that kept trying to tell us that there was nothing wrong with Hunter Biden calling his dad from his client table with all these people that were giving him tons of money from all over the world to promote not clean energy. Funny how the Americans can't do the clean energy, but oh sure, Romania, China, Ukraine, we're all over the not clean energy. You have natural gas companies, Hunter Biden will help tee you up, for goodness sakes. This Dan Goldman was the one who was spouting all kinds of lies, trying to make you believe that somehow Hunter was completely, totally innocent, which he was not. And now he's out there with the same old line of attack against Trump.
We, of course, know about Russia's interference in the 2016 election through cyber warfare. That helped Donald Trump. This time around, though, Russia is very aggressively using cyber warfare, and the notion that we would stop offensive cyber warfare against Russia is a complete acknowledgement and concession to Russia that we are not going to put pressure on them. I don't know what peace deal he's talking about, Anderson. Basically, he wants Ukraine to cave. That's the only thing that I can tell.
Yeah, they're really losing it because somehow Donald Trump actually wants peace. And if Zelensky isn't actually willing to talk about a ceasefire so that we can stop killing people, then Donald Trump doesn't want to keep giving him money to kill people. And he said, you're not serious about this. And so they've been losing it over, yes, Donald Trump cut off funding because guess what? Now we're learning that in fact, things are about to change. Now we're learning that a deal is happening. Now we're learning that they are paying attention over in Ukraine and in Europe, and now we're actually going to get something done. So I think that's kind of a big deal. A big deal, right? It's good to see. It's good to see, and it's good to have it happen now. I mean, I'll tell you, the Democrats are on defense, and they're going to continue to be on defense. I have something I want to show you that is kind of extraordinary. I actually couldn't believe it. I said to one of the show producers, I don't have a lot, but you're one of my great show producers who sent it to me. He sent it to me this morning, and I'm like, whoa, really? And then he sent it to me again. I'm going to show you these different iterations. It's Democrats all spouting the same talking points. All of them saying the exact same thing. So it starts off with three of them, 3 senators, and then it goes to more, and then it goes to more. I'm like, you're kidding me. I mean, my first question was, is this AI generated? How could it possibly be that they're all parroting the exact same narrative at the exact same time? Insane, right? But it shows you somebody is controlling things. They've got somebody running the message op. And I mean, I've never been asked to do this. I got to tell you, like, I've never just been, unless I'm reading a commercial, right? And the client wants us to read the commercial word by word by word. I never do that. Like, you're never going to actually, and even if I am reading a commercial word by word, first of all, you're going to be able to tell because I'm reading it straight off of paper. But the other thing is I always kind of improvise. These people didn't even improvise. All of these Democrat senators are saying the exact same thing. It is surreal. And you know what? It's humiliating and it's embarrassing for them. And I kind of love it. Take a peek.
I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse, not better. The prices of grocery, gas, housing, eggs, of essentials, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has done enough goose eggs to lower prices. Instead, he's pardoned violent criminals who savagely beat police officers on January 6th. He's letting Elon Musk take a chainsaw to vital government programs and then, even worse, giving him access to Americans' most sensitive data. Social security numbers, tax returns, health care bills. He's fired thousands of essential workers.
Okay, you get the picture, right? Sorry. I know it's kind of annoying to hear 3 Democrats all talk at once, but it's important that you understand, because as I show you the next clip, we now got 5 of them doing the exact same thing. We won't watch all of it, but I just need you to see it.
I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse, not better. The prices of grocery, gas, housing, eggs, of essentials, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has done nothing to lower costs for you.
Right? Okay, now you ready for it? Again.
I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
It ain't true. That's what you just heard. Day one of Donald Trump's presidency.
Oh my God. They're all coming for us. It's like a nightmare. Well, check out this one. And I literally said to David, who works on my team, I'm like, are you sure? Like, yeah. So we verified this. 22 Democrats, all with the exact same talking points at the exact same time. They're all told to do the exact same thing. Watch.
I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That's what you
Ba-dum-bum. You know, there's not an original thought in their brains. I think that's the takeaway. I mean, that is an embarrassing indictment of the Democrat Party. It is surreal for me to see, I mean, as a journalist, right? Because even the commercials, even when I'm asked to read something verbatim, I just can't. Like, I have to make it my own. Sorry. You know, like, it's just me. It's my editorial footprint. And what are these people doing? They're all taking direction from someone, somewhere, that had the bright idea that we're going to go in and we're going to be on the offense and we're going to attack Donald Trump and we're going to point out that prices haven't come down yet. Well, you know what? You're going to be waiting a little while. Sorry on that, guys. I mean, inflation. Joe Biden, thank you very much. The train left the station. It's going to take a little while to get that back in check. So that's not going to happen in a month. And you're absolute idiots who do not understand the economy if you would ever think that it would happen in a month. But they had these little talking points, and then they went out and they did them to their little cameras, and they plastered them everywhere. And fortunately, you got somebody who's bright enough to actually pick up on it and collect them all. And so throughout the day, we saw that, well, first it was 3, then it was 5, then it was 9, then it was 22. Because they're locked and united in their parroting of stupid talking points against one Donald Trump. Wow. I mean, what did he do to you? Maybe it's what he's gonna do to you. That's what has him so freaked out, right? JD responding to the Ukraine situation today as Donald Trump had stopped all federal funding to Ukraine. Let's take a peek. They caught him outside, seems to be on Capitol Hill. Let's listen.
President Zelensky supposedly made a statement.
We'll try that again. JD responding after Donald Trump had said he was a little annoyed that Zelensky told AP that this war was going to go on for a good long time. Here he is.
Do you still have hope for the mineral deal? Do you believe that the mineral deal can still be reached with Ukraine?
Yeah, I certainly do. And I think the president is still committed to the mineral deal. I think we've heard some positive things, but not yet, of course, the signature from our friends in Ukraine. But look, the mineral deal is a really important part of the president's policy. Number one, the American people have got to get some payback for the incredible financial investment we've made in this country. A lot of the aid that the Europeans have sent has come in the form of money that is getting repaid to them. Well, it's really ridiculous and frankly an insult to the American people that the Europeans are getting a better deal than the American people. The president is just trying to assure that the American people get a fair deal while simultaneously ensuring we have access to some minerals and resources that are very important for the economy of the future.
Well, guess what? I'm hearing some good news. I'm hearing that this deal is happening. So breaking news right now, Donald Trump reaches deal with Ukraine. I'm going to put that on what we call our lower third. Reaches deal with Ukraine. That is what is going to likely be revealed tonight. So Zelensky, despite going on Fox and not able to apologize and, kind of being down in the dumps there because he had just gotten kicked out, literally kicked out of the White House, is now apparently coming back, hat in hand, tail between his legs, trying to fix this somehow, some way. It's really, really going to be an amazing joint address. And, you would think the likes of Chris Murphy or Ilhan Omar might want to be there to enjoy it. You would think, instead of taking your ball and going home, you know what? This is diplomacy in action. If we can get a deal and we actually secure the mineral rights, then hey, maybe it won't be so cost prohibitive for the American taxpayer. If you're shipping over $350 billion, that's a heck of a lot of money for a country that, frankly, let's be honest with each other, absolutely, positively cannot afford it, right? There's a lot of things we can't afford. A lot of things he wants to change, including the trade balances. This is fascinating to me. Of course, I'm an economic reporter, and so I think what he has done is really turned on its head how we have approached economics as a nation. He's saying enough with these trade deficits. This doesn't make any sense. Now, historically, people have said, all right, let's just grow the pie and grow the pie and grow the pie for everyone, and then, everybody will be better off. Well, that doesn't really work if, say, you live in upstate New York and all of the jobs in your factory got shipped to Mexico. And sure, the company now gets their parts cheaper. And so shareholders benefit, those with capital benefit in that equation. But those who are the labor that actually make this stuff, they've actually get the raw end of that deal. And don't forget that this was Bill Clinton. And so the Democrats have championed some really kind of, for them, I'm just saying for them and historically who they're supposed to be, they're for unions and they're for the working class. And it's like, guys, you haven't been representing them in any way, shape, or form because you've allowed all of these jobs to move overseas. And there's been no looking out for the American worker, only for shareholders. And I get it. Shareholders are important too, right? We all want to make money. Look, I'll tell you, you'd be making money if you we're subscribed to 76 Research. Check out those model portfolios. Wow. 1 year anniversary, guys. 1 year at 76. I started this a year ago with my friend Rob Horton, and I'm so excited about it. Those model portfolios, that's where the action is. That's what I'm telling you need to do. But if you're nervous and you just want to kind of get your toes wet, use code word dollar and get the 76 report. Okay, go to 76research.com. Look at that. I spelled it wrong. Can you believe that? I'm going to fix that right here, right now. 76research.com, or you can go to 76report.com. You can go to 76portfolios.com, because you got it. Shareholders are doing okay, and Donald Trump knows shareholders will continue to do okay in his economy, but he wants to make sure that the workers are doing okay as well. And that's where the tariffs and trade issues come in. I'll tell you who's not happy about this. Canada. Canada doesn't like getting lumped in with Mexico, because now Canada is having to pay 25% tariffs. So Trudeau turned around, and somehow he's still there. He did announce his resignation, but somehow he's still there. And he said, you know what? We're going to put our 25% tariffs in too. And he's really mad. He said he has a message, a very big message for one Donald Trump.
Now I want to speak directly to one specific American, Donald. In the over 8 years you and I have worked together, we've done big things. We signed a historic deal that has created record jobs and growth in both of our countries. We've done big things together on the world stage, as Canada and the U.S. have done together for decades, for generations. And now we should be working together to ensure even greater prosperity for North Americans in a very uncertain and challenging world. Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do. We two friends fighting is exactly what our opponents around the world want to see. And now, to my fellow Canadians, I won't sugarcoat it. This is going to be tough, even though we're all going to pull together, because that's what we do. We will use every tool at our disposal so Canadian workers and businesses can weather this storm. From expanding EI benefits and making them more flexible to providing direct supports to businesses, we will be there as needed to help. But Canada, make no mistake, no matter how long this lasts, no matter what the cost, the federal government and other orders of government will be there for you.
Okay, we're glad, because you're socialists and everything. Sorry for all our Canadian listeners. Anyway, look, he's like, you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough on the border. You haven't been doing enough on the border. Trudeau's like flipping out. I mean, Trudeau and the Wall Street Journal, they're all on the same page. Okay, great. Well, the Wall Street Journal hasn't exactly been looking out for American workers. Let's be very frank, okay? They have not. They look out for big business, and they look out for shareholders, and that's fine, okay? Like, we know their agenda, but their agenda is not going to be simpatico with that of one Donald J. Trump, who's saying we need to make sure that Americans can afford something, right? Like, especially as we move into this AI economy, in this crypto land economy, in this metaverse Web 3.0 economy, you want to make sure that people can still afford a lifestyle. And so that's where manufacturing comes in. That's where some of these other jobs come in. I keep saying, you shouldn't have to have a PhD to be able to make a decent living in the US. And this is where all of the trades that the left looks their little noses down on, right? Electricians and plumbers. Heck, that's where the money is. In all seriousness, my former next door neighbor, I once lived at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, believe it or not, in New York City, the one that was down in Battery Park. And he was, it was a spectacular apartment. I was renting it. And the guy who lived next door, who had 2 floors and just an even better apartment, he was an electrician. He's an electrician. Turns out he did all the electrical wiring for Freedom Tower that they put in. So I'm just saying, like, don't look your noses down on that stuff. Like, you can make a decent living in a small town, or you can become, the electrician to the Freedom Tower. I mean, there are some good professions out there, but because they're so snobby with all their academic nonsense, they don't realize that. Here's Trudeau saying he's going to sue him at the WTO. Good luck, buddy. Good luck. I mean, if we decide to put tariffs on and you decide to put tariffs on, I'm not sure that you're going to have much punch, shall we say, at the WTO, the World Trade Organization.
Today, we will also be challenging these illegal actions by filing dispute resolution claims at the World Trade Organization and through the USMCA. But in the meantime, our tariffs will remain in place until the U.S. tariffs are withdrawn, and not a moment sooner. And should these tariffs not cease, we are in active and ongoing discussions with provinces and territories to pursue several non-tariff measures.
Okay. All right. So you go sue Canada. Good luck. JD made a very good point. He's like, look, until Canada actually starts controlling its border and what's coming across its border, we don't have a deal.
Look, the president's going to have conversations with the Canadians. We need to see real engagement on the fentanyl issue, on the drug issue. That is fundamentally the underlying element of these tariffs, is we think the Canadians have not been serious about stopping the drug trade. Now, people will sometimes say, well, if you look at the numbers, the Mexicans send way more fentanyl into the United States than the Canadians do. The Canadians have allowed a lot of fentanyl to come into the country. It's not a defense to say more has come from Mexico, because way too much has come from Mexico too. Great. Thank you all.
Okay, so they ran the gamut there. The last thing about...
Wow. So look, how much of an effect is this going to have on the economy? It's not great. I'll give you that. I mean, I'm fair. I'm fair. But there's certain pain or medicine that, unfortunately, I think that we kind of need to take, because for way too long, we didn't actually do what we needed to do, right? So you've got a situation where the trade situation is totally unbalanced. And yes, jobs have gone to Mexico. Canada's not doing what it needs to do on the border. And Donald Trump is using the economic leverage that he has, as only he knows how to do, right? Nobody else was willing to use those tools in their arsenal. And so everybody's shocked, right? Because it might mean that you're going to take a near-term hit in terms of inflation. The thinking being that, okay, if a Canadian good is coming here, then the person who's selling that Canadian good will have to slap on that 25% tariff, and therefore the price goes up. But eventually, if these things stay put for a while, what seems to usually happen is that eventually it all levels out. And guess what else? You're forcing producers to seek alternative sources for their goods right here in the good old US of A. And so it encourages domestic production. And go look around the world. Everybody else is putting tariffs on our stuff. So why aren't we putting tariffs on theirs? I mean, it's like we're supposed to sit there and take it? I don't think so. Hey, Spirit-filled, thank you again. I love the American flags and all the emojis. And then there was one other that I wanted to get to, because UNC Andy was talking about how it was like repetitive mind control. When you saw those Democrats all spouting the exact same thing all at once, they all got the same script. They were all told to sit down in front of their selfies. Unbelievable. I agree with you. It's like they're trying to actually, but you know what? We caught them. So they didn't get away with that one. I have been under the weather. Some of you have heard it. Can you hear it still? I mean, my voice might be a little lower, but I'm not singing opera today, so we're okay. I'm just talking. I have been taking my Balance of Nature, and I think it's helping. Balanceofnature.com. I take it every single day. One of the wonderful sponsors on this show, helping us bring this content to you every single day for free. You know what? I'm finally taking my vitamins. And I know I say that a lot, but it's important for you to know that, because I didn't really believe in vitamins until I started taking these. And also when my doctor told me, Trish, your vitamin D levels are way too low. You really need to get out more. I'm like, okay, I better, or take a multivitamin. So I started taking Balance of Nature. I take the fruits and gummies. For those of you that care, I'm not gluten-free, but I have a little kid who is. So I mention it. They are also gluten-free, which is great. You can get them on their website. They're delivered to my house. It's 35% off with my code word Trish. You're helping the show. You're helping me. You're helping yourself by going to balanceofnature.com, and you get free shipping. I know Leslie already takes it. So they're not going to get her as another customer, but she's already been a longtime customer. There are thousands and thousands of testimonials. You don't have to take my word for it, or Leslie's, but it is pretty good stuff. So go check it out. Free shipping, balanceofnature.com with code word Trish, 35% off and money back guarantee. Oh my goodness, we got a new world order that's coming into being, are we not? I mean, this is what we're seeing play out on the world stage. And I think this is a lot of the resistance that the Democrats are putting forward. There's a new guy in town, one Eldridge Colby. He is the nominee for the Undersecretary of Defense. He would be working very closely with Pete Hegseth. He's really smart, but he's got a very different view of the world than, say, the Biden or Obama camp. I want you to hear some of his opening testimony, just about a minute worth. It's worth hearing, and we'll discuss. Here we go.
American interests in the world cannot be assumed. There is a real risk of major war, and we cannot afford to lose one. I recognize these realities in my bones. It is my great hope that we can get through the coming years peacefully, with strength, in ways that put us and our alliances on a stronger and more sustainable footing. If confirmed, I would do all in my power to make it so. I know some of you will have different views on important issues, but I can assure you of several things. That I am deeply committed to a foreign and defense policy that realistically protects and advances all Americans' security, freedoms, and prosperity. That I'm willing and ready to engage with those who disagree with me and adapt my views based on persuasive arguments and the facts, that I value our alliances deeply, even as I think they must be adapted, and that I love our great country and will put its interests first and foremost.
Okay.
If confirmed.
So the reason why he's interesting at this point in time is because you're really seeing a departure from sort of the old world order that was all about NATO expansion, that seemed to be trying to broker some kind of deal with Iran. He actually has a very different view of the world. And it actually aligns with something that I once wrote. I got to tell you, for like my senior thesis in my class in international relations at Columbia University, back when Columbia University actually was a decent university. I actually have to say that now because I have no respect for where they're going. But I wrote on how I thought at some point we would see a world order in which you had effectively the United States and all of North America together. You would have Europe all together, and you would have Asia all together. And one of the threats that we'd really have to contend with would, of course, be the Asia threat, because they are such a powerhouse in terms of population and economic growth, et cetera. And interestingly enough, this guy actually shares the same sensibility. So I find that interesting. I remember my professor looking at it. I got an A on the paper, but he's like, gosh, this kind of feels like Pat Buchanan-esque. And I'm like, I had an opinion. I did. And that was some 20 some odd years ago, shall we say, 24 years ago. Anyway, this Eldridge Colby is undergrad at Harvard, Yale Law School, and he worked at State, and he was in the Intel community, and he is 5 years at the Department of Defense, and he'll be working alongside Pete Hegseth, assuming he gets confirmed, and I think he will. Something that came up is he might be sometimes a little bit of that sort of political realist thought, and in political theory, it's like the realists believe that, okay, if everybody has like a God forbid, a nuclear weapon, that maybe they act like more rational actors. And so there's been some concern about him vis-a-vis what that would mean for Iran. So Tom Cotton, the senator, cleared some of this up today in the hearing. Listen.
More precise, those credible and realistic options are more than simply saying we can give Israel some bombs and they can take care of it.
Yes, I agree with you, Senator.
It's well known that Israel lacks certain military capabilities that we have, such as aerial refueling tankers and heavy bombers with deep penetrating ordnance. Do you believe that at least one option for the president to consider how to stop Iran from going nuclear should be to use our tankers and our bombers, whether in tandem with Israel or in the lead?
Senator, I wouldn't want to get ahead of the president on specific decisions, but I think those are the kinds of things that should be absolutely part of this, the discussion. And if I were confirmed, those would certainly be the kinds of things that I would raise for the consideration of the Secretary and ultimately the President.
Thank you. And to be clear about why this is so important to us, to the United States, not just to Israel or our Arab friends, why President Trump says a nuclear Iran is an existential danger to us. You agree that it's an existential danger, not just a severe danger, as you said in response to Senator Gillibrand, or a significant one, as you said in your written answers.
Yes, a nuclear armed Iran, especially, Senator, given that they, as we've discussed, that they've looked into, or we know they've worked on ICBM range capabilities and other kinds of capabilities that would pose an existential danger to the United States.
So they have a space launch program.
Okay, so that was just an important thing to get out there. And, you know, he had the right answer to that. So it looked like Eldridge Colby could be coming in alongside Pete Hegseth at Defense, and he's got a tremendous background, at least from sort of the academic and the real world experience, having worked at Defense, having worked in Intel, having worked at State. And he is, I think, a good complement in many ways to Pete. So reminder, everybody, make sure you subscribe to the show if you have not already. We got to get to Letitia James, because Letitia James is kind of freaking out. Letitia James is hitting the panic button because Trump is ignoring her demands. Now, this is very interesting. She's been filing motion after motion. He just ignores them because, you know, he's like, I control the purse strings right now, and I'm cutting off funding to you guys because you guys aren't playing ball. I mean, this is amazing to me. So Pam Bondi, who, as we began the show with, I told you is not messing around, said, I'm cutting off Letitia's funding. She's not going to have any more money. In fact, all the sanctuary states that are providing shelter and, you know, ease of living, if you would, to illegals, you're not getting anything anymore. I'm just cutting it off. And so Letitia flipped out. She filed one motion, and she actually got a temporary order where the judge said, okay, you know, you probably can't pause funding just yet. And Trump ignored it. He absolutely ignored it. And now she's filing a second motion because she has no money. So this is the new one, okay? In response to this continued non-compliance, Attorney General James, alongside her coalition, filed a second motion for enforcement yesterday in the U.S. District Court for the District of Rhode Island. They're seeking a court order that would force the Trump administration to release the funds or provide proof that they have ended the freeze. And he's like, yeah, whatever. No, not doing it. And so consequently, one Letitia James is now out of cash. She has no more money to pursue these various efforts against him, because don't forget, a lot of this money was actually being used to, well, I mean, it should be going to FEMA, this, that, and the other. And so she's like, hey, this is our money. It was approved by Congress, and we want it. We want to make sure that we're getting it. And he hasn't turned the spigot back on. So again, she's filing these motions. Now, you might ask, does she have any chance in HELL right now? And I would say no. Because you know what's going to happen? It's going to have to go through the court system. And so this is a case of Letitia getting a little bit of her own medicine. I mean, Letitia put him through his paces. Do you think for 2 seconds that she had a case against him? Vis-a-vis, you know, you can't overinflate your valuation of Mar-a-Lago. You think it's worth this? I think it's worth only $18 million, despite the fact that it actually made $56 million in 1 year. She thinks it's worth $18 million. Now we know why she's a lawyer from a two-bit law school, acting like a politician in New York instead of actually a success in her life. Oh, I could get harsh. I could get really harsh. Really harsh, but I won't. I'll let her do the work for me. Just take a look back. You know Letitia James.
We heard from Donald Trump in our case against him, other defendants, and the Trump organization. He rambled, he hurled insults, but we expected that. At the end of the day, the documentary evidence demonstrated that, in fact, he falsely inflated his assets to basically enrich himself and his family. He continued to persistently engage in fraud. The numbers don't lie. And
no, but you do, Letitia, you do. And you know what? You're running out of options here because Trump is not playing ball with you. And he's turned off the money spigot. And now you're going to have to go through all these court filings. And you know what? Judges are very reluctant to actually try and stop the power of the presidency. They figure that's Congress's job. And Congress is not going to do it because they're not going to impeach him. He's got Congress. I mean, look, he got Tulsi, he got Kash, he got Pete. He got everybody he wanted, RFK Jr. So he's got Congress. So you don't have any real options here, Letitia. You're standing there in the way of the federal government trying to police its borders. The one thing that the federal government for sure can actually do, and you're trying to prevent that. So you know what? Two can play this game. We know what you did. We know the legal tricks that you played. We know, Letitia James, that you only went after him for political reasons because it was expedient for you. Right? All right, let's roll this tape.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Over the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes. We know he's crazy. Yeah. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yeah. We know he's out of control. Yeah. We know he's losing it. Yeah. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Thank you.
That one took the cake, right? Well, you know what? DEI is over. Everybody's getting rid of it. Goldman Sachs just got rid of it. Disney just got rid of it. Letitia James, that little narrative that you were spouting, that it doesn't fly anymore. Too male, too pale, too stale. Come on. Well, here's the deal. She's now running out of cash, so she's filing this motion. But her challenge is that it's going to take a long time to get through the courts. It's going to take a long time to get to the Supreme Court if that's where it's going. And so in the meantime, time is on his side. And he can do a lot. Now, you may not like it. I mean, a lot of us didn't remember, the student loan forgiveness that was completely unconstitutional that Joe Biden engaged in. But these things take a little bit of time in the system. And Letitia, you should know this better than anyone, because Letitia James is the one who filed that crazy lawsuit against Donald Trump and tried to actually bankrupt him so that she could prevent him from running for office. Well, I think she actually helped hand him the election. I mean, they kept doing that. When you come forward and you say, I am going to charge you it was nearly $500 million in your bail bond. And if you don't have the money, we're going to go and confiscate your assets. If we have to go to Trump Tower and stand there and take over Trump Tower, we'll do it. I mean, people are looking at this and they're like, you are crazy, lady. You're really, really crazy. Because that was a bank that did a transaction with Donald Trump, and it was a private transaction that had no bearing on the rest of the public. Therefore, Letitia James, as Attorney General, never even should have been diving into that. She was just wasting everybody's time, as the judges in the appeals court have already told her. And by the way, I'm a little annoyed at that appeals court because we're still waiting on them. Hello. Where is that decision? I think that they're just kind of hedging a little bit because they don't want World War III with Letitia and company, but they're going to get it. They're going to get it if they don't do the right thing, because it is so obvious, and then you're going to have that thing escalate. But in the meantime, you know what? New York is up a creek without a paddle because they have a group of lawmakers there that are not following the rules. And Donald Trump's like, yeah, tell it to the hand. Tell it to the hand. Letitia, tell it to the hand. I'm taking your money. I'm not giving you a dime. And two can play this game. You originated it. And now he's in charge. So tough luck, Connie, baby, right? Remember to subscribe, share, like. Don't forget, by the way, look at this. 1 year anniversary. Woohoo! All right? I'm so excited. I'm so proud of us, what we've done there. You can get all of these names. Go to 76research.com, 76portfolios.com. Get the 76 newsletter at 76report.com. Use code word $. Okay, Donald Trump is going to be addressing the nation tonight, and I'm really excited for this. I'm actually going to be back on with you for analysis immediately following this address. This is a big deal. So it is his first address. For those of you that aren't familiar with the terminology, they call it a joint address to Congress because, you see, he's only been in office a little over a month. And so they don't call it a State of the Union. So the sort of precedent is to always refer to this one. It's basically a State of the Union, except that he's only been there for a month and change. So he's going to give you an update on what he's doing for this first month. And the expectation is that he's going to talk a lot about tariffs. He's going to talk about the border. He's going to talk about the economy vis-a-vis inflation and maybe some of his plans. He's going to talk about DOJ and cutting spending. All of these things are super popular. And he's going to talk about women's sports as well. And that's what I've heard. We also know that some of Melania's guests, let me see if I can bring you this list of them. You can see that she's got the Compratore family. Of course, that was horrible. I mean, remember what happened to that that gentleman. That was just taking us back in history to a really, really horrific time, but it's a time that we should never forget. You have some other people, for example, Elliston Berry from Alito, Texas. She's a 15-year-old girl who was the victim of a computer-generated deep fake created by a bully at her school, and so she's going to be there with Melania Trump tonight. You have Jeff Donard from Alabama, nearly 3 decades working at a steel plant, and he had this good-paying job, and then he lost it, and so we're gonna talk about, I imagine, some of these working class issues that are so important to Donald Trump. You've got the NYPD officer, remember Jonathan Diller, who had been murdered at the traffic stop by a repeat criminal. So this is just an example. There's some others as well here. I mean, it gives you sort of some insight into the themes that I expect that you're going to see throughout the evening. And I get at sort of the migration thing. I get at what we're seeing vis-a-vis jobs. We're going to get at what's happened with women in sports and declaring male and female genders. These are going to be some of the hot button issues tonight. And Democrats don't want it. They are just, turning up their nose at all of this. But I would remind them of this. Again, I go back to the new poll that just came out today, Harvard-Harris Democrat poll showing 52% of people approve of Donald Trump. 58% say he's doing a better job than Joe Biden. I mean, this is amazing, guys, right? So, when the Democrats say that they're against everything that he is standing for, I just got to tell you, they are so far away from reality. And that failure to recognize reality is kind of come back and bite them in the you-know-what, big time. Because this is a president for the people, and it's resonating with the people. And that's all you need to know, right? I mean, if you are not on the side of the people, you are on the side of what? Big corporations? You're on the side of yourself? The Democrat Party has just really and truly lost their way. I've never seen anything entirely like it. I just haven't. Reminder, subscribe, share, like. I'm going to be back with you for reaction to this joint address. Another just reminder, if you haven't yet, go check out TrishLovesGold.com, American Heart for Gold, one of our great show sponsors. Text Trish to 655-32-1844495-1115. Also, you can get up to $15,000 in free silver. That's actually the lead. I'm burying the lead. I'm a journalist. I shouldn't do that. Okay, the $15,000 in free silver is really the lead on that one with qualifying offers. And listen, like gold is important. I am very thankful I have gold in my portfolio all the time. Very much now. Okay, and then the other thing that I just want to mention, of course, is it is the 1-year anniversary at 76 Research. We've absolutely killed it. Look at those 76 portfolios. Go to 76portfolios.com. Sign up for this. If nothing else, make sure that you get the 76 report. Code word $, my gift to you for the first 2 months, and it goes to $9.95. And, of course, I will be back with you for live coverage of Trump's address, the joint address to Congress tonight. Thank you for all your generosity. I see so many wonderful new faces here, and so many familiar ones like Mike Costa, David Lorenzo. We got a few Davids. Anyway, Leslie as well. And Don, thank you for all you do to get the word out to the world. Peace of my mind as well. Thank you again. I'll see you soon.